Okay, we're live.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Community of Adjustment meeting for Friday, August 13, 2021. My name is Tom Hill. I'll be chairing the meeting today. And this morning, there's a public meeting scheduled for one minor variance application. And there's also one application not subject to public meeting for consideration of a consent application. I'll briefly summarize the procedure that we'll be following this morning. First, the Secretary Treasurer will advise the committee as to when, how, and to whom notice of each of the hearings have been circulated for the applications being considered. Next, each of the applications will be considered separately. Planning staff will advise of the purpose and effect of the application and provide any information relevant. The Secretary Treasurer will summarize any correspondence on file, and from there the applicant can make a brief presentation if they so choose, and the public will also be given an opportunity to speak to the applications being considered. After the public forum, the committee will then deliberate on the proposed applications and consider a motion to either pass, defeat, or defer the decision for the applications. So this morning, the minor application being considered is number A21-12 for 6280 River Shore. And the consent application being considered is B2101 for 24 Stump Bay Lane. Before we begin, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. I have a motion moved by Member Demkew, seconded by Member Matthews, to accept or adopt the agenda for today's meeting. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Okay, Madam Secretary, could you advise us as to the notifications, please? And you are muted, Marcia. You're muted.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Notice of each of the applications was sent by first-class mail to their respective owners and assessed persons within 120 meters, 500 meters, or 800 meters, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent at least 20 days prior to this morning's meeting. Included in each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the application and a key map showing the location of the property. Other relevant information may also have been provided. These circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act 1990.
Thank you very much. Our first application this morning is A21-12. Do we have the applicant present at the moment?
We do. I'm just going to bring them over now.
Okay, thank you, Brad. And who are you bringing over, Brad?
Dave Block, the applicant for this minor variance. He's in here now if you want to proceed.
Okay, I don't see the applicant on my screen yet. Oh, there we are.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
And welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting for August 13th. Just to give you a brief overview, the way the procedure will work this morning is the planning staff will give us an overview of your application and explain any information that's relevant. Following that, if you want to add any comments to what the planner said, you're certainly welcome to do that. And any member of the public who may be in attendance, and I don't see any at this point, would also be able to make comment, or in some cases, they may have submitted comments in writing, which will be read by the Secretary Treasurer. Following that, the application will be brought before the committee and for any questions or comments that they may have, and then we will have a motion to either pass, defeat, or defer the application. So with that, I would turn the meeting over then to our planner to give us an overview of your application.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to bring up the presentation here. Just get a thumbs up if it's visible on the screen.
I can see it.
Perfect. All right. So the first application this morning is minor variance A21-12. The applicant is Dave Block, and the lands are located at 6280 Severn River Shore, obviously on the Severn River. An overview is that it does propose, the purpose of the application is to facilitate the construction of an addition to an existing legal non-complying dwelling. And due to the topography of the shoreline, as well as the orientation of the existing dwelling, the addition would result in a further reduced front yard setback. So these are the two variances that are requested by the applicant, both of them being reduced front yard setbacks. The first being to the proposed addition, where 20 meters is required, but the applicant is proposing to go to 17.2. I do note that the existing dwelling is set back approximately 18.5 meters. So there's a slight reduction again from what is existing, as well as a reduced front yard setback of 16 meters to an attached deck. And they're proposing 14.1 meters. So just a quick overview is that they are proposing to construct the addition to the south end of the existing dwelling. Again, due to the irregularity of the shoreline, the proposed addition would be set back closer to the water than what currently exists. The addition does comply with all of the provisions of the zoning bylaw, except for the requested variance. And it is the intent of the applicant to utilize an existing cleared area adjacent to the existing dwelling to accommodate the proposed addition. And there are hydro lines located immediately to the rear of the existing dwelling, which limits the applicant's ability to expand the dwelling without further encroaching into the front yard. So you can see the location of the subject land shown here in gray, located on Cop Bay of the Severn River. In the 2018 aerial imagery, you can see the existing dwelling located here, as well as the existing docks. And this area here is where the addition is proposed. The survey of the subject lands, the existing dwelling is shown here with the proposed addition and deck to the south of what is existing. I do note to the committee that the applicant has recently purchased their shore road allowance from the municipality. So the shore road that is noted on here is now been closed. The applicant is also proposing the construction of a sleeping cabin and a replacement for the dry land boathouse. Both of those structures would entirely be in compliance with the zoning bylaw. So the request before the committee this morning is just to facilitate the addition of onto the dwelling. This is the elevation drawing of the proposed dwelling. This portion here is what is existing, and this is the new addition to the south. The height of the dwelling would not be increased as a result of this application. Then we have some site photos from staff's site visit. So looking from the water towards the existing dwelling, the addition would be in this area here. There is moderate vegetation within the front yard that would act to buffer and screen the proposed addition and kind of mitigate it from the water. And this photo here is taken from the existing deck, kind of in this area here, looking out towards the water. And here is a photo of the cleared area immediately to the south of the dwelling where the addition is proposed. So just a quick overview of Development Services Report 2021-63. Staff are recommending approval of the application subject to the recommended conditions. The applicant is limited in their ability to construct the proposed addition without further encroaching on the front yard due to the location of the hydro lines. The identified species at risk or endangered or habitat of endangered or threatened species has been adequately addressed and would be further protected through the site plan agreement. The proposed addition does comply with all expansion provisions and standard zone requirements, except for the requested minor variance. And the existing cleared areas what is proposed to be utilized, which would aid in the retention of vegetation on the property. So planning staff are of the opinion that the application does conform to and does not conflict with any of the applicable planning policy documents and does meet the 4 tests. And just an overview of the recommended conditions. Taxes paid, the applicants enter into a site plan agreement with the municipality. Approval is tied essentially to what the committee has considered this morning. Any fees or disbursements incurred by the municipality will be covered by the applicant, and that they have 3 years to obtain building permits. So that concludes my presentation for this application. If the committee has any questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Madam Secretary, has there been any correspondence on this application?
No correspondence has been received.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Block, is there any additional comments that you'd like to offer on this to what the planners offered already?
Yeah, we just put together a couple of comments. This won't take too long, but I want to give you a little history of the cottage, if that's okay. I won't take more than a couple of minutes, but the history of the cottage was built in 2004, and then we purchased it in 2007. It was essentially built and abandoned, and then we did the landscaping up to date and brought it, and so this is our 15th summer at the location. And it's become kind of our pride and joy and where we like to spend our time. When we applied for the minor variance, the only problem with the cottage is, as you can see, we're pinched between a hydro line and the waterfront as far as our development goes. And it's always been a problem. The original builder did not apply for a minor variance to turn the cottage the way that it would naturally go. So it's been part of our longer term plan to put a structure or expand the structure so you can actually sit somewhere in the cottage and look at the waterfront. So that's essentially what this has become all about. So our intention is to spend more time. The cottage is very limited. It's the original footprint is 24 by 36, so it's not a large cottage. We wanted a little bit more space to spread out to. As our family grows and expands a little bit. And then just as a comment, I know there's been a lot of attention to the vegetation around the cottage. It is certainly our intention to keep as much vegetation as possible. We like the remoteness of the cottage. We like the fact that it's water access, and we very much like the privacy and not only the vegetation, but the animal life around the cottage. So our intention is to leave that as intact as possible. And that was really all I had to say. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Block. Now close the public portion of the meeting and bring the meeting before the committee. And for any questions or comments, and we'll begin with Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did not get out to this as for a site visit, but it looks, pardon me, looks quite straightforward. I think Brad has explained it well, and on surface, I don't have any issues with this.
Okay, thank you, Member Matthews. Member Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat as Mr. Matthews on this. I do have a question. When I was first reading this, I read it two times and only now realized the implications. I got the impression that the cabin that was to be built would be replacing the boathouse, the way the wording in the document is. Brad, just for your info, I now realize the boathouse is just being a new boathouse is going in where the boathouse currently is. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Member Matthews, that's correct. They would be replacing the existing dryland boathouse.
Okay, so then my next question is the total number of buildings on the property, obviously it's in line in the total square footage. Is that something that we calculate, the square footage of the boathouse, cabin, and house as a proportion of the property altogether?
Correct. Yeah. It would all count towards their lot coverage. They are permitted 10% lot coverage on this property, and the overall development does comply with that.
Okay. Okay, I had no further questions. I think yes, looks like a nice plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Jarvis. Member Coutier.
Thank you, Chair Hill. I think that this qualifies as a genuinely minor variance, and under the circumstances, I think it's the appropriate way to expand, and so I would have definitely approved this application.
Thank you very much. Member Caddo.
Yeah, actually, I've been up to the property, and it's well protected from the your neighbors. You can't see much. It's I don't think there's going to be much of a problem there, and I do support it.
Thank you. Member Demkew.
Thank you, Chair Hill. It's all been said by everyone else. I think that's pretty straightforward. Restrictions with the hydro lines and the waterfront don't allow much. Luckily, there's this spot on the side, and I guess it's the shoreline bend, and that's the only thing that causes the variance on that side. But I'm fine with that. I'll approve this.
Thank you very much. Member Ferguson.
I agree with the comments made by the other committee members, and I support this application.
Thank you very much. I have before me a motion moved by Member Caddo, seconded by Member Kuchar. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A21-12 to zoning bylaw number 2014-75 as amended for 6280 Severn River Shore to permit a reduced front yard setback of 17.5 meters to an addition to the existing dwelling, subject to the following conditions. A, that municipal taxes are paid to date. B, that a site plan approval application be submitted and approved, and that a site plan agreement be executed detailing the proposed development, the preservation of vegetation, protection of areas within the front yard in a manner prescribed by the applicable policies of the Township of Georgian Bay official plan as they relate to the administration of site plan control. And that approval of this variance is granted and fixed to the subject site plan extent, location, scale, and use contemplated in the application. And D, that all fees and disbursements, legal, engineering, and planning, if any, incurred by the township with respect to this application shall be paid for by the applicant. And E, that approval of the variance expires 3 years from the date of decision if any building permits have not been issued for the approved structure. All those, I'm sorry, I see your hand up, Brad.
I just wanted to confirm in the first portion of the resolution, I think we should have added in there to permit a reduced front yard setback of 17.5 meters to the existing dwelling and a reduced front yard setback of 14.1 meters to an attached deck.
That's true. And I'm making that amendment as we speak to this application. And those who would have seen that presentation would have noted that that's the way it was worded. So this was a typo. So I think we're good to go ahead and.
Mr. Hill,
yes.
may I ask a question just for clarity? I thought it was 17.2 meters, not 17.5 meters. Maybe I wrote down the notes incorrectly.
Can you confirm that, Brad?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did say 17.5, and I have 17.2 as well.
17.2 is in the table that Brad provided.
Okay.
I apologize. It looks like I made two typos.
You're very busy in there, aren't you?
We had this
Talking a foot, but you know, we should get the resolution correct, I believe.
Yes, it should read 17.2 meters to the dwelling and 14.1 meters to an attached deck.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good.
I think we can blame this on our interim director of planning as an oversight.
Big shoulders.
Yeah.
There she is.
And you thought she was sleeping in the background. Yes, right. Okay, so we are all in agreement as to the terms of this resolution, and I've made the notes on the document that I have here. So if I could have a show of hands, please, all those in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you very much. And congratulations, Mr. Block. Your application has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll now move on to our next application, which is B21-01. for 24 Stump Bay Lane. And Brad, do we have an applicant joining us for this presentation?
We do. The applicant is here and they are in attendance now.
Okay, I'm just okay. So we have Wayne and Jill Barker in attendance. Welcome to the meeting. Before we begin, I'll give you just a brief overview or summary as to how the application will be read. Excuse me. To begin, planning staff will advise the committee as to the purpose and effect of the application and provide any information relative to the application. Following that, the Secretary Treasurer will advise us of any correspondence that's been received. From that point, you as the applicant can make additional comments or add some more information to what the planner has provided already. Also, any member of the public that would be in attendance, and I don't see any at this point, would have an opportunity to speak. Following that, we'll close the public section of the meeting and bring the application before the committee and consider a motion to either pass, defeat, or defer the decision on the application. So with that, I would turn it over to our planner and ask Brad to give us an overview of this application.
All right. Can everybody see the slides?
Yes.
All right, so our next application is consent to application B2101. The applicant is Wayne and Jill Barker, and the lands are located at 24 Stump Bay Lane on 6 Mile Lake. The application does propose a lot boundary adjustment to facilitate the transfer of a vacant, irregular shaped portion of the subject lands, being 24 Stump Bay Lane, to the adjoining benefiting lands at 16 Stump Bay Lane, to correct an encroachment of the existing septic system that services the benefiting lands. This application would not result in the creation of a new lot, and the public meeting was held during the March 12, 2021 Committee of Adjustment meeting. So here we have a location map showing the subject and benefiting lands. The subject land shown in the darker shade of gray and the benefiting in lighter. They are located in the northeast quadrant of 6 Mile Lake, and the surrounding land uses include shoreline residential. Here's the 2018 aerial imagery that I've added some drawing to kind of explain the situation. So essentially all of the lands here that are outlined in a colored line are what presently or recently have made up what is 24 Stump Bay Lane. The lands shown here in yellow were dedicated to the municipality as part of the road allowance through a land swap application with the municipality at a recent, that was recently considered by council. Essentially what the applicant did was transfer this portion of lands for the road allowance that was located in this area. And that matter was a reason for the deferral at the earlier March meeting. So through this application that is presently before the committee, the applicant is requesting consent to sever the lands shown here in green from the subject lands to be added to the benefiting lands located here at 16 Stump Bay Lane to correct the encroachment of the septic system. So this provides a little bit more clarity on the survey here as well. So you can see the land swap involved the lands here that Stump Bay Lane is located on in lieu of the road allowance. And what the committee is considering today is consent for this portion of lands here to sever from 24 Stump Bay Lane to add to the benefiting lands so that this septic system would entirely be located on the lands that it services. The building department has advised that that is an ideal situation. So here we have some site photos back when staff did their visit back in March of this year. we have added to them to give a little bit more clarity to the committee. So essentially the lands outlined in green are what would be retained following the application. The line in blue is the approximate water's edge, kind of from this little bay in the back. And then here's the approximate location of the lands that would be severed and added to the benefiting lands. So staff are recommending provisional approval of the application subject to the recommended conditions. The lot boundary adjustment would better align with the function of the properties, and the benefiting lands would actually be brought into better compliance with the minimum required lot area and frontage provisions of the zoning bylaw. And the consent would have the effect of correcting the encroachment of the septic system. So planning staff are of the opinion that the subject application conforms to and does not conflict with any of the applicable planning policy documents, and are recommending approval subject to these conditions, being that municipal taxes be paid to date, the applicants obtain approval for a zoning bylaw amendment to reflect the lot area of the retained lands. I go into a little bit more detail in the staff report on that condition. However, the SR6 zone that's applied to the property requires or states that the minimum required lot area and frontage in the SR6 zone is the existing lot area and frontage. So therefore, when that is reduced, the property owner would require a rezoning to recognize the resulting lot area. A reference plan, so essentially they have a survey prepared of the lands that would be severed, a in preparation draft deed so that staff can ensure the correct portion of land is what is being severed and transferred, ensuring that the severed lands merge with and are not separately conveyable from the benefiting lands. Any fees or disbursements incurred by the township are the responsibility of the applicant, and that they have 1 year to satisfy these conditions. So that is all I have for the committee this morning. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Madam Secretary, has there been any correspondence on this application?
One letter of no objection was received from the District of Muskoka prior to the public meeting in March. No further correspondence has been received.
Okay, thank you very much. Over to Wayne and Jill Barker. Is there anything that you would like to add to the planner's comments at this point? Then I might tell you that you're on mute. So down in the bottom left corner, you'll have to click that little unmute button. There you go.
Yeah, we're happy to have hopefully this consent moving forward. It seems to have been a little long to get to this condition, but at any rate, we're here. Under the recommendations, I did have a couple of questions. Tax situation is not a problem. Township takes them out every month. The zoning bylaw amendment for a lot change in area, does that have to happen before the reference drawing is submitted and registered?
That question would be for you, Brad.
So through the chair, the rezoning would need to take place prior to the township issuing the certificate of official, which is essentially the certificate that you would need to register to title to actually sever those lands.
So which happens first?
We have to, do we have to go to the council? Don't wait for the zoning bylaw first?
Correct. So you would need to make the application to council to rezone the lands, and then you can proceed with actually severing the property.
How soon can we get on a council meeting to do that?
I can follow up with you after the meeting today with some dates for the deadlines for the future council meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Register any drawings.
Questions and comments. I seeing no members of the public are in attendance. Then I'll close the public section of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And I see one member who's anxious to comment. Mr. Ferguson, please present your questions.
I just have a quick question for Brad. So what we're actually doing today is recommending approval of this parcel severance, because the actual approval will be provided through, because there's a reduction in lot size, it will have to be approved by council through a new bylaw. Is that correct?
Through the chair, what the committee is doing today, very similar to all other consent applications, is should the committee choose to approve this application, you would be granting provisional approval, meaning that the application is approved subject to the applicant satisfying the list of conditions.
Okay, great. That makes great sense.
Okay. Any other questions, Member Ferguson?
No, that's it. I think this makes sense. I think it's worked out, to repair so that they have their proper lot lines, and there isn't this encroachment of a septic system. So I'm certainly in favor of this application.
Okay, thank you very much. Member Matthews, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, it seems very straightforward. I would support this, particularly when it's to help the septic system, which I think is critical to all of us on the bay and in the township of Georgian Bay, and protect our pristine water. So I would support this.
Thank you very much. Member Caddo?
No problems here. I'll support it.
Okay, Member Demkew?
I'm fine with this, given everything they've done. I'm okay.
Member Kuchar?
I support this application. Thank you.
Member Jarvis?
Yeah, I have no issues either with it. I think it's a good idea, just as noted, to try and the septic system onto the appropriate property. I just have one question for Brad. Sorry, Brad, to do this to you. The overheads, the one that's sort of the Google Map version versus the survey, the chunk of land's a different shape in those two. Is that just an anomaly based on your great sketching ability, or is there something I'm missing here? I had trouble the two don't seem to match up. That's all.
Yeah, so through the chair to Member Jarvis, the GIS mapping essentially has two different layers. There's the air imagery, and then there's the parcel fabric that gets laid over top. So sometimes they're just not aligned 100%. But the survey that I showed, and I can bring it up again if you would like to.
No, you don't need to. It's okay.
The survey would be the most accurate information, not my drawings.
Okay. Okay, but the lots. Okay, so the lot size is what you say there. Okay, I got that. That makes sense to me. It seems to me Stump Bay, this Stump Bay property area has been on our agenda for the last couple of months, for one reason or another. So I'm sure with the applicants on this, the sooner we get things done, the better. So I'm okay with it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Member Jarvis, and again, thank you to the Barkers for your continued patience and perseverance in this. It looks like we're making good headway. With that, I will read the motion. It's moved by Member Jarvis, seconded by Member Ferguson. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional approval to the consent application B2101 as advertised, subject to the following conditions. A, that municipal taxes are paid to date. B, that applicants obtain approval for a zoning bylaw amendment at their sole cost to reflect the lot area of the retained lands at 24 Stump Bay Lane. C, that a reference plan of the consent shall be prepared and duly registered by Ontario Land Surveyor and one copy filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the committee. A draft copy of the reference plan should be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to registration on title. And D, that a copy of the electronic registration in preparation draft deed of the lot addition, if applicable, shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer of the committee together with a signed acknowledgement and direction so that the consent certificate may be issued. E, that the severed land shall merge with and not be separately conveyable from the property municipally known as 16 Stump Bay Lane. The owner solicitor shall take all necessary steps to ensure that the parcels merge under the Planning Act. F, that all fees and disbursements, legal, engineering, and planning, if any, incurred by the township with respect to this application but shall be paid for by the owner. And G, that conditions set out herein shall be completed within 1 year of the date of decision of the committee. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, the application is approved and the motion is carried. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Barker. You've moved one step closer to getting this whole issue confirmed. Thank you very much, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you. I hope we can improve on the last comment, where it has to be done within 1 year. I would hope we could do it a lot quicker than that.
Okay.
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you and appreciate your time.
Okay, you're welcome. And next item on the agenda, I have in front of me a motion to approve the minutes of the July 16th, 2021 minutes. Are there any questions or comments regarding the minutes from July 16th? No anomalies? Okay. Having seen that, it is moved by Member Kuchar, seconded by Member Demke. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves the minutes of July 16th, 2021 as amended and circulated. All those in favor, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. And our final motion of the day.
Sorry.
The comment there?
Yes, Mr. Hill, it's David here.
Member
I-
Matthews.
Could I raise one issue before we close the meeting?
Yes, you may, sir.
Thank you. I think on behalf of the Committee of Adjustments and perhaps the entire Township of Georgian Bay, to offer our condolences to the Davis family. As you know, Mr. Davis passed away, excuse me, last weekend, having spent over 90 summers on the Bay. Incredible ambassador. His family has picked up the gauntlet on many, many occasions. One of his sons is now the chair of the Georgian Bay Land Trust. So I think the Township of Georgian Bay is privileged to have the Davis family in our clan, and just like to offer our condolences.
Thank you very much, Member Matthews. I had the pleasure of visiting Mr. Davis at his cottage, and I could not agree more. Although he got older, his personality never changed one bit. Same wit and sense of humor that carried him through all of his public life, and certainly a tremendous addition to our community here at the Township of Georgian Bay.
Agreed.
So thank you for taking the time to bring that to our attention, Member Matthews.
My pleasure.
Our final motion for the day, it's moved by Member Ferguson and seconded by Member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment does now at 10:40 a.m. Adjourn our meeting until September 17th, 2021 at 10 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor, please raise your hand. The motion is carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance today, and a special thank you to our interim Director of Planning who took time out of her busy schedule to join us. It's always a delight to see you.